warning you that I'm starting that live stream, but you know that no one can see it. And make sure that it's on mute so you guys don't have to listen to my voice twice. So, good, it is. Just so that you know some things that often get goofed up in this. All right, so that's all the steps. If you're listening to the Zoom and you hear my voice twice, like for example, this. Can you hear me talking and something else that sounds like me talking in the background?
No.
Okay, good. Sometimes when I start the Zoom backup video, the sound comes back through to you guys again on the recording, and that we don't want. So if you ever feel like you hear my voice echoing, please let me know because I need to fix that for you guys. You should be able to see me if you feel like you're listening to me and you can hear my voice, but the music just suddenly disappears. That's another setting that I need to fix. And when the problem with Zoom is sometimes when I like add in backup streams, it automatically resets the Zoom. Anyway, technology, right? So if you feel like something is weird, of course, sometimes it can be a slow Zoom thing, but other times, sometimes it's really helpful to me if you guys let me know that something sounds funny because I want to make sure you can hear me at all times. Okay. No, you do not have to have your camera on. I love it when you do, but it's totally not required at all. You guys can have your privacy. It's all right. If you feel like you want to have your camera on some of the time or none of the time, and maybe you're like, oh my gosh, it's such a mess back here, down at the bottom of the Zoom on your right-hand side under the stop video place, there's a toggle where you can use virtual backgrounds. So you can just blank out or fuzz out everything in the back if you want. Like, for example, Audrey has her background blurred, so we can't see the collection of rare artifacts that she is keeping behind herself, right? So any of those things are fine. You guys can make your own choices, and that's great. All right, that's it. Any questions before we actually do some yoga? Wouldn't that be nice? Yay! Adjust my camera position. Try not to show you my desk or spill my tea. Okay, cool. All right. Here we go. So I'm going to, this is our first yoga workout of the summer. So for those of you who are in my Skyline College online class, this will be Zoom B of week A. So week A through F is what we're going to go through here. Zoom B means it's the first one was our orientation. This is our first workout. So we're going to start every class usually seated on your mat. And the idea with starting seated on your mat for a moment of quietness is to make a really, basically a ritual that helps your body switch gears from daily life into your practice, right? Because part of yogic practice is to increase your flexibility and maybe your endurance. But the other part of it is to help train your mind and your mind body. So that yoga means yoke, which is attaching your mind to your body, training your body to be able to be in a emotional place of well-being that's not full of all of the anxious, obsessive thoughts that most of us are prone to at some time or another, but to really use the active physicality and breath and mindfulness to experience calm. Yeah? Now, that doesn't mean we won't get sweaty. We will get sweaty. I teach this class organized by, I'm starting my workout tracker for those of you who are tracking your workouts with me. It's been a long time since we did yoga. It's lost down here. Donna Fairhey, who's a teacher of yoga teachers, has this idea of 7 moving principles in yoga, and we have a handout on our website about them. But the ones we're going to work on this week are breath and alignment. So please read that handout if you're in my class. But our goal today is to try to breathe continuously throughout our practice. And then since for a lot of us, this is the first time we're doing yoga, I'm going to talk a lot. We're going to go through basic poses that we'll do pretty much every time. And I'm going to talk a lot to you about how to check your alignment to make sure that you are feeling safe in everything that we do, that you might feel big muscle tiredness, but never joint pain in your joints. And that is something that you learn to feel. So when we feel pressure in our joints rather than work in our muscles, then we want to adjust the alignment of our skeleton to make sure that we're working in a way that makes us stronger rather than wears out our joints. So you should never feel pain, sharp jabbing pain in this class, although you might feel muscular burn, especially if we're like in a lunge for a long time, your thighs might burn, for example. So learning to feel what those things feel like. And always with me, there are modifications. And so I will try and teach you pose, and I will say, this is bus stop A, right? Like you can come here to bus stop A and just stop at bus stop A. If that's where your house is, you get off the bus at bus stop A. There's also going to be bus stop B, C, D, and E. And I like to teach them all so that we can have options for all the different levels in the class. But also because no matter where you're at, if you're like a long-time practitioner or a new person, some days you want to work at the basic level and get your core strength working. Some days you want to try something where you're going to fall out of it and laugh about it. And sometimes you want to know where you're going so that you can work on the like intermediate spots. All of those are good, valid places to be. And it's up to you guys on the end to figure out what your edge is on each particular day, right? Because our bodies are not the same every day. Okay, so that said, I'm going to turn the music back on. I'm going to let you guys close your eyes for the first 5 minutes or so, and I'm going to just talk you through some breathing. And then after we open our eyes again, then we'll start moving through a basic vinyasa flow. Hopefully our music is going to work. Excellent. See if I can find something a little mellow here. All right, so we're just going to sit down and breathe in through our nose, down into our lungs, and try and fill those lungs up as enormously as possible. And exhale slowly and completely. We're just going to take some time to meld into that and wake up the stereo again. As you're breathing in this time, notice the sensation of your breath coming up in through your nose, through your skull, down into your rib cage, and maybe experiment with holding your breath in your chest for just a moment, and then slowly and steadily sending it back out. And as you exhale, can you feel your shoulders soften down your back? Notice if your spine slumps a little bit. And we don't have to judge that. We're just feeling our bodies. Breathing back in when you're ready. Giving yourself permission to move slightly with that breath. And exhale. Feel that emptiness. And breathing back in. And when you're all full of air, pause for a minute and feel the sensation of fullness in your breath. And exhaling slowly and steadily. And this practice of pranayama or breath work is really a tool that we're using to practice our ability to calm our bodies down into focus. And it does take practice, so you might notice your mind going. If you're hearing thoughts about what's coming next or distractions, let your focus come back to the feeling of breathing. How do your shoulders feel? Can you exhale a little tension out of them? What do you feel with your palms and your hands? Do you feel your knees, or if your palms are up, do you feel the air? And we're going to let our breath get a little more effortful. So big breath in through the nose. And as you exhale this time, a little bit of tightness in the throat, so you're making a funny little ocean sound. Breathing back in through that nose. If you're feeling ready, we're going to open our eyes now. And we're going to add some motion with the breath. So generally speaking, as I inhale, when I'm trying to make energy in my body, I'm going to think up or straight with an inhale, down or bend with an exhale. Trying to send all of my air out. Big breath in. And exhale. Now I'm trying to extend and encourage your breath even longer than might be comfortable in this practice, but you don't have to be in sync with me for any of this class. You can kind of do it according to the own length of your breath rather than trying to be exactly together. All right, one more time. And this time as you roll down, you're going to drop your head, neck, shoulders, and slide it down. Leaning forward over your legs. Spreading those shoulder blades wide. Still staying down for one more breath cycle, in and out. When you're all out of air, we're going to inhale and stack your body back upright. We're going to exhale over to the side. And now notice most of the time when we come to the side, our bodies want to also twist or slouch. And those are not wrong movements, but we want to be clear about which ones we're doing at which time. So for this side motion, I want your hand to be outside of your hip, yeah, as opposed to forward or back of your pelvis, which will torque your torso. And we're going to bend it, big stretch along your side body here. And we're going to inhale, reach up. I'm going to reach my fingertips in the biggest circle I can make, petting the back wall as I exhale. And then I am going to curve my body forward a little bit to really open up my back as I reach forward and inhale. So big circle with the breath. Notice how your body feels to start with. Is your neck tight or loose? Is your back tight or loose? Can you make your breath a little bigger? Nice long side of the neck here as we reach away. One more time. And as we inhale, up comes the body. And exhale to the other side. All right. So my hope is that, and this is from those of you I can see, we're mirrored. Yeah? So as I'm over here, go ahead and bend into it if that feels good. This looks to me like your right hands are in the air. You're gonna breathe in, exhale, pet the back wall so you feel the stretch across your shoulder and chest here. When you get down next to your hip, then your side of your neck is stretching. As you reach forward with that right arm, then your back, especially between your shoulder blade and your spine, are stretching. And we come up again to the top and your side body stretches. So we're opening up all of the shoulder girdle, all of the muscles that we use to sit up straight or slouch. Opening all of that and your neck. And I mentioned that this is your right arm moving and that we look like mirrors because this is my left arm moving. I'm actually, exhale, drop your shoulders and open them up. I'm actually doing everything on the opposite side to you guys in order to teach and make it look like I'm a mirror reflection because I think that's easier to duplicate. Go ahead and lift your chest up. But sometimes it's hard in 2D to see what I'm doing. So I might leave you where you are and turn my body to the side so that you can see a different view. And when I do that, you do not need to change your position with me. I will tell you if I'm asking you to change your position, but I might just go sideways so you can see that in this position, I'm trying to lift up my chest, but keep my lower back mostly vertical. And you might be feeling your hip flexors by now. So whenever you feel those hip flexors grip in this position, just jiggle your thighs a little bit to give them a break. We're going to take a big breath in. Arms come up and swing back behind you with your fingertips pointing forward. And now we're really going to press that rib cage wide and open. So you're trying to spread all of those ribs up in the air. And I'm going to tuck my chin to my chest and then gently lay my neck on my shoulders here because your shoulder blades are popped up. And we're just trying to spread in between each of those rib cage bones. One more big breath here. We're going to take our chin to our chest whenever we come up from back bends. We're going to drop our shoulders down to sit up tall. Big breath in, exhale. Tuck your body back. Excuse my mic pack here if you're ever wondering what that lump is. And we're going to switch our legs so that your other leg is in front. And we'll start over. Big breath in. And this time we're going to keep our backs flat and float out and down like a leaf. And I'm going to let you keep moving here. So in your own speed, whatever feels good, breathing in and exhaling down center. Breathing in and exhaling down center. And I like to imagine that I have a leaf underneath my fingertip here and I'm just like skimming it across the top of a pond like a little boat. But there's no right or wrong way to do this. Whatever feels like it's opening up your back and letting you breathe. We're going to come back down center. We're going to draw our bellies in and our shoulder blades back and lift up, come up. And now we're going to go to your left side, but instead of bending, we're going to spiral. So I'm going to let your fingertips come down, keeping your shoulders back, still sitting up super tall. Use your fingers to help you revolve to the back of the room. And I'm looking towards the back of the room, not just with my eyes, which might make my head tip, but also with my chin and my rib cage. So I'm trying to spiral, but still be upright. I like to imagine my spine sort of like a narwhal or unicorn horn, right? Spiraling but straight. Finding your breath. As I inhale, I lengthen my spine. As you exhale, I'm inviting you to soften those thighs and drop your shoulders. And we're going to inhale front and center. And exhale around to your right side. Go ahead and inhale back front. Drop those shoulders down, open your chest again, and lift your heart up skyward. Catch a big fluffy cloud on your chest. Ooh, big squishy marshmallow cloud. And drop those elbows back, roll your shoulders back, long back of the neck, so slight tuck of the chin. So we don't want to look with our eyes and have our chin up, that compresses the neck. Instead, we want a long back of the neck. This is a bus stop. You can stay right here with just your chest up, or if you want to, you can lift the hips. Might feel too early in the practice to do that, might feel uncomfortable, or you might feel like that's what you want. So you get to choose.
Hey, Amber.
Go ahead and drop your hips down as you exhale. Inhale up, exhale, curve. Send
Amber.
those legs out. Big breath in, bending those knees, and exhale, drop forward. Drop your head, one breath here. Go ahead and release. Inhale up. Dropping the shoulders, exhale. Elbows swing back, fingertips forward. Arch the chest with your legs out. You can decide whether you want to just arch that chest or if you want to try pressing your hips up. Find your breath. Exhale, taking it back down. Big breath in. Swoosh, soft knees and forward fold. Go ahead and roll your body up. We're going to take our feet in nice and close. And you can choose how you want to get off of the floor here. I'll teach you a few different ways. You can just roll over onto your side and come into a squat. Ta-da! Let's do that today. So a moment on a parallel leg squat. I want my heels to be next to my hip sockets. Yeah, so if I turn to the front here, I'm not talking about having my legs out wide and my heels being wide or falling out to the sides. I want in a parallel squat for everything to be quite tight, and I want you to use your inner thighs to center those thighs together. So I'm squeezing my thighs together here, and that helps my ankles to not fall out in an uncomfortable way. So go ahead and take your hands to the floor, let your legs stay bent, your heels don't have to touch, and then when you're ready, you're gonna roll all the way up with your breath. And that's one of those roll-ups that seems really simple, but we want to do it slowly sometimes because over time it gets quicker. All right, we're going to do a Sun Salutation next, which is a vinyasa. That just means flow. So a series of poses we're going to do together. I'm going to skip this song because even though I love it, I know that.
Amber, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so like my wrist, my like left wrist is kind of hurting. I'm guessing it wasn't like supposed to hurt during that, so should I just like not? But like I don't know.
Was it when you were putting weight into it?
When we were like doing like the back like leading thing like that, I was yeah.
Okay, so fingertip position relative is going to make a big difference. So on those things with our hands behind us, our hands should not be out to the side, but they should be pointing straight forward. And also where your elbows are is going to make a big difference. So I'm going to say this quickly because I have a deep dive for you coming up next week, all about wrist strength. But it's a good question to touch on real quick. So we'll do more on this. Whenever our hands are going to go on the floor today, and you guys can all do this standing up with me right now, Your arms want to be right in front of your shoulders. Yeah. Your pointer fingers want to be pointing up or maybe slightly in, but not too much in. Really, you want them to be pointing up like parallel, because I would like you to practice squeezing your elbows in against your body. So let's just take our arms back for a second. And can you do the chicken dance? Yes, excellent. You guys are so good at that. All right. So take those chicken wings and squeeze them hard, like with a lot of pressure in against your rib cage for me, till you feel that like heat and quiver, because you're really putting some effort into it. This strength is what's going to keep your elbows in alignment as we do almost all of our arm balances. So go ahead and keep that inward squeeze and your palms in front of your armpits or your shoulders and your fingertips pointing up, and just press out and back in a few times. Yeah. So I will never in yoga ask you to do a high school style push-up with your elbows up. Never. Because what we want is to be able to keep those shoulders back, elbows in, and wrists in front of our armpits with our pointer fingers up, so that we're making as much space as possible in this wrist to not have a lot of compression. But we are going to have to build this strength. Okay, here's our last arm and wrist warm up. I like to say, I'm 10 years old. Can you make your hands really excited for it? Yes, exactly. I'm 10 years old. And then judgy flamingos. 10 years old. Judgy flamingos. 10 years old. Judgy flamingos. 10 years old. Can you already feel how tired your hands and wrists are getting? Mine get tired right away. Yeah? So you can feel there's like so many muscles in your forearms that are often weak or tight. And we will be strengthening all of those things. So there will be times when we're on the floor and you're going to feel some compression and discomfort here. As these get stronger, this will lift up. So keep wrapping those elbows into your center line and actively spreading and pressing your fingers, and that will take and make a little bit more space there. So if you're in a arm balance, we're there, it just hurts, you're like, give me a break. You can switch from, where's the right place? You can have your hand straight on the mat, yeah? And that should hopefully leave you to have no more than a right angle here, yeah? If you're having less than a right angle here, it's going to feel terrible. We're not trying to do that at any point in time. It should be no more than a right angle. And then if that's not working, occasionally you can switch to what I call the spider. But that's not going to be strengthening your arm. It's kind of like a cheat that you do sometimes. You can also switch to a fist. Yeah, be careful if you have really long nails. And so you can move to those other options if you need to. If you know you have a wrist injury and you want to use props, there are props, but they're kind of not ideal either. There's just kind of a growing strong section. But we'll keep talking about this all the time. So if you need to switch to fists, take a break, that's okay. All right, here we go.
Wait, actually, sorry, one more really quick thing.
Yeah.
If something hurts, like not like if something like it's like when you twist and like something hurts, do you what do you do? Do you stop? Do you untwist? Do you like
You
what?
slow down and back off.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, slow down and back off. So you don't want to like jump out of anything. You want to like just come out, because it might be that you're 20% too far into it for what your strength is. Yeah. But if you just totally jump all the way out of it, then you're never going to build the strength to get up there. And then check your alignment. So back off and check your alignment. So let's go. Jackie, you do not have to use the tracking workout. If you have one, you can, but you don't have to. Okay, so for our Sun Salutation, there's a few different versions of it, but basically it is a flow, which means you go from pose to pose to pose. From upright, I'm going to do super fast forward. You don't have to follow along. We breathe up, we come down, we do a flat back, we step back into some sort of lunging, we go into some sort of a plank, We come down to the floor. We go into either child's pose or downward dog. And then we step back into a lunge, which will be on the other side, back into your forward fold, flat back, come up to start again. And then we repeat the whole thing on the side. So I'm going to break that all down. But it's something that we'll do with a little bit of variation, but almost the same thing every time. And the idea is that you will get to know it and have it memorized in your body. And then you can work on finessing these little things. So I'm going to put on some music. We're going to follow along for the moment, and then I'm going to break down with some detail. Okay? Okay. So we start in our mountain pose, which is just your feet underneath your hip sockets, not the width of your hips, but where your hip bones are. Knees and toes are parallel, I sometimes say, which means that knees and toes are straight forward. And your pelvis is neutral. And I don't know where our music just went, but we're going to take a big breath in. And we are going to exhale, drawing our hands down. And I like to soften my knees a little bit here because it's my moment to re-engage my center, reach up and open my chest. And then I feel like my upper back and chest are opening. I inhale back upright. Yay. And then we're all going to exhale down to a forward fold. Every single time that we come to a forward fold in my class, you can bend your knees. So let your spine dangle like a rope. Let your arms be soft. If you feel a stretch in the back of your legs, you should. But if you feel it sharply, especially behind your knees or right where your thigh meets your buttocks, we don't want to feel it there because those are your tendons. We want to feel it in the big part of any muscle when we stretch. So soften your knees a little more if you're feeling it behind your knees. And then we're going to lift our shoulders and back and stomach up so that we have a nice long flat back. And I'm really reaching my spine towards the spine wall. And again, here you don't have to have straight legs. The ultimate expression of the pose is straight, but it's not that important to be straight because instead we want to protect behind our knees. And we're going to exhale back down. Soften your chest. And we're going to step our right leg straight back in space to high lunge. And we're not going to do any warrior ones this week. We're going to do all high lunges because they're similar but not the same, and I want to be clear about which one's which. Okay, high lunge means in a lunge, one leg is bent and one leg is straight. And I'm going to turn to the side so you can see it in just a second. For high lunge, I want my hips square to the front. And that might mean that your lunge is not as big as you hope it would be. So maybe you step your back leg in. Hips are square, shoulders are square in high lunge. Okay, I'm going to turn to the side now. So your right leg is forward. Your right leg is forward. In your lunges, I'm going to put my leg back just so I can demonstrate for a second. We never want this knee to be forward of the ankle. Yeah? So that means here is great. Here is fine. But when we let our knee pass the ankle, here I'm going to badly demonstrate for a moment, it puts a ton of extra stress on the knee that's just not necessary or helpful for strengthening your thigh muscles. What we want instead is to aim for the knee to be right over the ankle, and the knee and second toe, so like your pointer finger toe, are in the same direction. So that means if I were facing straight front, my pointer finger toe, not the big toe, but the second toe, and the very center of my knee right there are going to point in the same direction as opposed to foot out, knee in, or foot in, knee out. Yeah, so we want to keep those two things the same. Knee and toe, same direction is the cue that I give a lot of the time. Your right foot stepped back, so your left knee is front. Your right foot stepped back, so your left knee is front. Knee and toe, same direction. Hips are square. And then I want you to try to engage your belly and drop your pelvis to vertical. Now this means your back leg is going to bend for me, but I think it's more important to have an engaged torso than to have a perfectly straight back leg. Yeah? Because most of us put too much pressure in the lower back all the time at the expense of our strong cores, and I want you to have a strong core and a safe back. So bend that back leg just a little bit for me. You might all be like, oh my gosh, can we get out of this lunge? And the answer is yes. Let's go ahead and come on down. I'm going to reach my hands to the floor. Bus stop A, you can put your knee down first to transition to move that foot back. And we're going towards our plank. And in my class, anytime we come to a plank, it's up to you to decide for your body whether your knees are up or down. So a full plank is a straight line. A modified plank, which I encourage everybody to do it first, especially while we're strengthening our arms. You put your knees on the floor, and then you lift your abs back up. Yeah? So modified plank, if you're hoping for a straight line, ooh, it's hard. From your shoulders, through your hips, to above your knees. And you shouldn't feel like you're on your kneecaps. You should feel like your weight is higher than your kneecaps here for comfort. All right, elbows are gonna squeeze in, chicken dance friends, as we lower down to the floor. And that part is the chaturanga. Take a moment. Elbows are still in, we're gonna press up. We're gonna come back down. And then we're gonna go tuck our feet. So when I tuck my toes, I'm putting the balls of the feet on the floor. And I'm gonna press up to my modified plank, take my hip weight back, and then lift my knees off the ground to come to a downward dog. Yeah? Downward dog. Your feet should be pretty close together. Your hands are still, I'm 10 years old, shoulder width apart, elbows in. And your legs do not have to be straight. Most folks, when we first do downward dog, tend to curve their back and come too far forward and make their hands exhausted. I'd like you all to try bending your knees first and shifting your weight back, like someone grabbed your tail and pulled it back in space, yeah? Go ahead and walk your hands too close so that you can take your hands off the floor. Feel that sensation? Place your hands just barely on the floor with no weight. So that's not quite your downward dog either, but maybe one or two hand lengths forward could be plenty. So feel like there's weight in your balls of your feet. Your heels are touching, maybe, but not necessarily. Your chest is open. And now we're gonna move on to the next spot. We're gonna lift your right leg up in space. Doesn't matter how high for this. We're gonna soften both legs. So bend both legs and sneak right foot forward. You can put your knee on the floor for bus stop A transition. So this is gonna lead us to our high lunge on the opposite side. Before we come up, we're gonna check our foundation. So we're gonna make sure our knee is over our toe and our knee and toe are in the same direction. We're gonna hold our thighs towards that square center. Your back leg can be bent. And we're gonna squeeze our thighs towards each other and push into the ground to rise up. Now, if that's still really wobbly to you, try doing it if you can near a piece of furniture or a wall so that when you come up, you can like touch it on the way up. That is totally okay, yeah? So your right leg is now forward and your left leg is back. Check your alignment. Knee and toe first. Did your hips open up? Because we don't want that. We want that back toe, all the toes on the ground, and heel pointed straight up for high lunge. I'm wrapping my back hip closed so that my hips and shoulders are square to my front. Yeah? We're gonna go ahead and lean our chest forward, push through your foot in the back a couple times. That's your springboard. And step together. It's okay if it's 3 steps together. Exhale down to your forward fold. Release your neck. It's okay if you can't see me. Inhale, flat back. Soft knees are fine. Exhale, soften down. Inhale, rolling up. That is right side sun salutation. Now we're going to do it on the left. Now that you kind of know what to expect, we're going to flow a little more. Exhale. Inhale. Open. Big breath in. Exhale, forward fold. Melting down, releasing your head, neck, and shoulders with your exhale. Inhale to your flat back, lengthening that body. Exhale, soften. And remember, when I turn the side, you don't have to turn the side with you. I'm just making it easier to see. Our left leg is going to step back. And we're going to rock a little bit forward and back, just to get into that spot. And during this time, you're taking a little bit of a moment to see, is my knee over my ankle or behind it? But definitely not forward of it over the toe. That's too far. If your knee is over your toes, it means your back leg is too close. So scooch it back. Squeeze those thighs towards the center line. Make sure all your toes are on the floor in the back and back knees facing down. And then we're going to push ourselves up. Finding your core strength to wrap your hip in, draw your belly lock in so that you have a long lower back, and then finally reaching your back heel back if you want. Find your breath. So much alignment detail. Big breath. Exhale, taking your hands to the earth. Back leg can go down. Stepping your foot back. Lifting your belly in to come forward to a modified plank. So you're definitely lifting up that core, shoulders back, tucking your tailbone in. We're going to bend our elbows along our ribs to the back of the room to slowly lower down. Chaturanga. Inhale up, baby cobra. And let's take this part slow. We kind of rushed it last time. Big breath in. We want the top of the head to rise up. Our chins are dropped. Our shoulders are pulling down the back. And our abs are still lengthening that lower back. You choose how high you want to go. At my highest cobra here, my gaze is only straight forward. If I were to look up, it would crunch the back of my neck. Exhale, soften down. Gather those legs back together, abs in. Tuck your toes. We're going to press back with our elbows in. And then extend the legs to come to your downward dog. Let's look at our hands and check our hands. We want our hands to only be as wide as our shoulders. Our pointer fingers are forward as we practiced. Our elbows are wrapped back. Our chests open down towards our big toes. And the back of the legs can be slack. But of course, they're stretching a lot here. One more big breath here. And here's a good note. Anytime, and I mean anytime we're in a downward dog in this class, you can drop your knees. Come on with me. Sit your hips down to your buns. Put your forehead on the floor and choose child's pose instead of downward dog. Now in a child's pose, your armpits should feel like they're opening, but also your lower back. But for some of us with like a lot of muscle in our thigh, the butt doesn't fall down towards the hips. Like you might feel like you're a little more hovered here and you get a lot in your chest, but not so much in your hips and lower back. So sometimes in your child's pose, you want to take your hands a little closer and push your tailbone to curl into your heels to feel that lower body part. And eventually those two feelings join in the middle, but it's okay to do a little push and a little relax of your chest opening and a little push. It's okay to do what works for you to get those two benefits. Find your breath in this resting child's pose. All right, we're gonna stack it back up in downward dog. So I'm gonna start by tucking my toes. I'm gonna bring my thighs close together. I'm gonna check my hands before I put weight in them. So I'm making sure that they're shoulder width apart, pointers, fingers forward, elbows wrapped in. We're gonna press back into your downward dog. And your left leg, which is the leg that was just back, is gonna lift up to step forward. Resetting that high lunge, so hips wrap closed. Back here on the floor, when you look underneath at this back leg, you should see the knee is pointing down to the ground. We don't want it to be pointing out to the side. That's a different pose. So square down for your high lunge, wrapping that hip in, coming on up. Long lower back. Find your breath. What can you relax? Reaching forward. Stepping together. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, soften down. Inhale, lift it up. Open chest and back to the start. All right. Hands in front of your chest. This position of the hands is called namaste. It's a greeting of respect in India. I don't use it at the beginning and the end of class anymore because it's appropriative, as opposed to just like, it's nice to see you. But we do pause here because your thumbs can rest right on your heart, and you can feel your heartbeat for a moment with closed eyes. So I invite you to feel your heartbeat before we move on. We're going to move through the same path, We're going to do a little more flow this time, now that we're familiar. Big breath in. Big exhale. Here we go. Inhale brings your palms on up. Exhale, open that chest. Inhale, coming back up. Long back of the neck. Exhale, reaching forward, forward, fold. Inhale, flat back. I'm going to turn to the side. Reaching through that spine, lifting up your abdomen, long lower back. Exhale, soften your thighs. And your left leg is going to step back. Your left leg has stepped back. Check your toe and knee. You can rock to hover into it. Find your center, wrapping that back left hip in, rising up. Find your balance. If your knee's too far forward, then step back. If you're having trouble keeping your hips square, step it a little bit in. We're going to inhale up with our hands. This is going to get a little tricky. Hang in there. Exhale, open those hands. Squeezing your thighs towards the center line for balance. If you can, lean forward. Scoop up some cool water in your palms. Open as you exhale. One more time. We're going to exhale all the way down, hands to the floor. Your front leg is going to take as many steps as it needs to go back to your plank or modified plank. Abs are in as you slowly lower down. Knees can be on the floor in any plank. Inhale up, cobra. Shoulders back, long back of the neck. Exhale down. Pressing up to your choice of child's pose or downward dog. It's your choice. What do you want right now? Find your breath in your resting position, whichever one you chose. let yourself make noise while you breathe. Left leg is going to go up with your next inhale. Exhale, drop that thigh down, tuck it in. Inhale as you tuck forward, exhale, thighs pass, inhale, lift. Exhale, take it down. Inhale, tuck it up. Exhale, send it back. Inhale, lift that pendulum one more time and then tuck it underneath it. As many steps as you need to come back to your high lunge. Left foot forward, rising up. Drop the shoulders down. And reach your chest forward. Fingertips touch the ground. Back foot. Presses to step together. Inhale up, flat back. Exhale down, bend your knees. Rolling up with an in-breath. Good, guys. Here we go. Right side. Up. And exhale. Look at those knees and toes. Make sure they're both straight forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, take it down. Now your right leg's going to step back. Here you go. High lunge. Rocking forward, rocking back. All right, check your back knees pointing straight down to the floor, not out to the side. Squeeze those thighs towards each other and push the earth away to rise up. Adjust your gait. Breathing with the circling arms. Now I'm doing a big version of this. If it feels really wobbly here today, do a small version of this. Here's a small version, breathing up and in. Exhale right to the sides. In this small version, I'm keeping my shoulders up over my hips and just staying nice and centered. One more circle of the arms and breath. All the way down to the earth. You can drop to a low lunge to step back to your modified plank. Whoop. And with your abs lifted in, we're going to lower down with our elbows going back and our chest coming forward. Inhale back up. And down to your child's pose. Everybody, child's pose, please. Big breath. All right, so anytime we're in our child's pose, you can also add in a wrist stretch. Remember we had, I'm 10 years old, and disappointed flamingos. For your wrist stretch, you're gonna have that disappointed flamingos arm position. I'm gonna put my knuckles on the mat and press my wrists beyond my knuckles to stretch the forearms on the upper side of your forearms and the back of the wrists. Release that wrist stretch. Look up for a second and carefully place your hands, point your fingers forward, elbows in, tucking your toes underneath you so you're on the balls of your foot. You press back into your downward dog and your right leg's gonna float up in the air for the leg pendulum. Exhale, thighs pass. Inhale, tuck it to your nose, shift your weight forward. Exhale, thighs pass. This part's a little intense at first, and you choose how big it is. If you're working on balance, keep it really small. If you're feeling feisty, you can really lift that leg up, but find center hips again. Yoga is not a competition, not even with yourself. Instead of trying to get extreme, I invite you to get present. Can you step forward with that foot? You can put your knee down to do it if you want. Re-square those hips, lifting up the back knee, pressing back up to rise. Settling into it. Strong abs, lean forward. Breathe. Knee and toes straight forward. Hands drift to the floor. If you like, just step together. Forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, soften. Inhale, roll it up. Take a moment, finding your breath, feeling your heart. Squeeze your legs towards that center line gently. Feel your belly. Squeeze it towards your thigh, your back. Shoulder blades are going to squeeze down and back. Feel yourself big, open eyes. Big breath. Open. Super flow. Down. In and flat back. Exhale, down. Right leg back. One time coming up. Big circle. Straight down to your modified plank. To the floor. Inhale. Exhale, take it down. And back to your child's pose, rest. Feel gravity. Feel the earth, feel your breath. 2 more full breath cycles here in stillness. All right, a little added squeeze of your thighs together. Tuck your toes, check your arms. Elbows are squeezing in to your downward dog. Lifting that leg, stepping through. High lunge. Rising up. Find a square before you move on. Reaching forward, checking your knee and toe in the front. Back foot's going to take as many steps as it needs to get to your forward fold. And up, flat back. Soften down. Inhale up. Last time. Inhale brings you up, flat back. And the other leg's going to step back. We're going to come up one time, big circle. Squeeze those thighs together for balance. And step back to your modified plank. Elbows back. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, take it down. To your downward dog. We're going to move straight on, so skip that child's pose. Inhale up with the legs, step it through. Rising up. Exhale, reaching through. Hands drop, stepping together. Flat back. Soften forward fold. Stack it up. You did it! Close your eyes. With your palms in namaste, feel your breath. If you slow your breath down here, do you feel the tension between the pounding of your heart and the slower breath? And just experience that sensation without having to experience anxiety. You can take a bigger breath if you want. What does it feel like to choose to slow your breath to big and slow? And see that your heart will follow where your breath leads. All right, letting your eyeballs open back up. We're going to, if you'd like to, you can hold on to a wall, or maybe if you have a chair nearby and you want to put your hand on the chair top. I have a desk here that's about as high as my waist, so I can put my hand there for extra balance if you want. We're going to do our tree. So I'm going to start with my feet all the way together. Feel that centering. And I'm going to take your right leg and turn the knee out. So I have the ball of my foot on the floor. And I'm going to rest my heel on my ankle. And then maybe experiment with lifting my toes. So this is your tree pose. Bus stop A. Yeah, sometimes even that just feels super wobbly. Bus stop B, if this is feeling pretty good, is we move our heel up to the calf of the standing leg. Yeah? We never, ever, 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 ever put pressure sideways on our knee, right? My knee bends forward and straightens back. We never put sideways pressure on the knee joint. So that means the difference between B on your calf and C on your thigh is up above the area of your knee. So if you're holding on to something or ready, you can move your heel up. Now, once we get higher than B, you're going to start noticing how your hip position is really changed by the movement of the thigh here. And for good balance, what we want to do is to get those hips back to horizontal, and that means I'm going to let my hip drop out to the side just a little bit, and then I'm going to lift back to center by thinking about lengthening my leg into the floor. Is a really great way to think about it, as opposed to like sort of slouching or collapsing out. We want these side of the butt muscles to engage and our standing leg to straighten. Now, if this is just like wobbly the whole time for you, move it back to the B. You can do all of this strengthening and balance work at a place that works for your body. So you could be in A the whole time. Maybe that's where you're at this week. That's fine. You could be B all semester. That's fine. If you feel like C, that's great. If you're like, hey, I've been doing this, this is no problem. You can come up to D, which is heel all the way in the top of your inner thigh. And it does feel like the skin gets smushed down here with the weight of your leg. That's normal, but awkward at first. We're going to square those hips, and we're going to elongate into the ground, aka support. And we're going to radiate through the crown of the head. And maybe think about reaching those arms up. Now, the tree is mostly thought of as this one bent leg, one standing straight leg position. And the variation of the tree can include different arms. They can be in namaste. They can be above your head. They could be tree branches. They could be a cactus. Go ahead and let that go. Now, you might feel tiredness in your hip. You might feel tiredness in the sole of the foot or the ankle. Tiredness in the hip and thigh is pretty much always good. If your lower back is hurting, it probably means that we are dumping out our bellies and tipping our tailbone up, which is fine when you're looking sassy in jazz class, but when we're working on strength, we want to think about lifting our belly in and dropping our tailbone down to the center of the earth, yeah? So we're going to try the other side. If you notice that your foot on the ground was cramping, like the arch of your foot, it probably means that you're trying to hold your balance by squeezing the ground with your toes. And that just is not, you're not always ever going to be that strong. True balance comes from organizing where your pelvis is on top of the structure of your bones. So let's try standing on your right leg. Left knee is going to turn out. Start with bus stop A. So my ball of the foot is on the floor, my heel is on my ankle. And we're going to all just do a little hip movement here. So let's do sassy left to right hips. And you can feel that when you really drop your hips out to the right, there's like a stretch on the outside of this hip here. Those are your gluteus medius and minimus. Those are your hip and knee stabilizers. So we want to engage those a little bit. And then we're also going to do a little like twerk and tuck here. Stick it back, tuck it underneath a few times. We want to lift our belly button in enough that the lower back really gets long here. Yeah, we're not trying to like tuck it all the way underneath like a Fosse movie. We just want to be long and supported. So, meep, 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 meep. Now you can experiment with switching your bus stops. Keep this knee open. Your standing leg, the knee and toe are both forward. Choose your bus stop. Are you going to be at B? Are you going to be at C? Are you going to be at A? You're going to come up to D, decide it was too far, move back down. All of those are good answers. You're going to hold on to a wall the whole time or your ceiling. I'm in the basement, you guys. I'm not really this tall. Big breath in. Exhale. Get a little bit taller. Try hands above your head, or one hand above your head if you're holding a chair. Tree, cactus. Let it go. Good. Wiggle that out. Circling out those wrists. Circling out your heels and ankles. Take a sip of water if you've been talking. All right. We're going to do one flow to the side, just so that we've covered most of our biggest jobs of the season. And then we're going to do floor stretches right after that, okay? So those are always people's favorite. Just to recap, our breath goals are breathing in when we're going up or lengthening, exhaling when we're bending or getting deeper into a stretch. And those are not hard and fast rules. Those are just like, so that if you wonder what you might want to be doing, you can work on that. Some key terms I'm often talking about are squaring your hips to the front, meaning that they're not falling open. Come a little closer, right? Not falling open, but we're square. So I might say square to the front, or I might say square to the side, and that's what we're going to do next. Two most important places, three most important places are your back of your neck. Whenever we're lifting up, we want to keep that back of the neck nice and long. So go ahead and just for a second, take your hands underneath your head and nod your head. So you're feeling your neck. You're just going to slow nod your head really big. You can feel how when your chin goes up, it smushes your hands a little bit because the neck can be compressed there. So instead of lifting your chin and your eyes to get up, I want you to drop that chin a little bit and think about lengthening the back of the neck. It's a different feeling. It almost feels like if you imagine like an elf with pointy ears, like someone's pulling your elf ears. Yeah, 1 1/4 chins. Lower back, most of us, like 80% of us feel lower back pain. It's almost always that we need to use a little more abdominal lift and point that tailbone back in line. And then knees are always knees and toes in the same direction. These are the big alignment rules that we will always come back to. All right, I'm going to turn my body to the sideways, but you can still stay where you are. We're going to take a big breath in together. We're going to slide your right foot back. Actually, I'm going to turn this way. You're going to slide your right foot back. This pose right here is called balancing stick or warrior three. Most of us arch in the lower back when we first do it, so I'm going to invite you to lengthen through that back and think about lifting your foot off the floor. Yeah, you can still hold on to a wall or a chair here. We're going to try not to open the hips yet, but to lift that back leg off the ground. Bus stop C. Bus stop D is flat back, warrior three. Ooh, I'm not ready for this today. Go ahead and step back past your high lunge, and we're going to open all the way to warrior two. All right, warrior two, I'm going to take a moment and do it, and then I'm going to break it down for you. Front knee should be over the ankle. Starting, it can be quite an angle here, as long as the knee is over the ankle and not over the toe. Yeah? Hips are square all the way open. That is a challenge. It's hard to keep your front knee open and your hip open at the same time. We work towards that over years, yeah? Keep your knee and toe together. More important than all the way open, but we're getting there. Hips are trying to be flat, so they're square to the side of the room. Yeah? This knee is going to keep falling in as you open to the side, so we're going to keep opening it up, knee and toe together, hips open. Tailbone drop. Arms are out to the sides. Shoulders are down. Long back of the neck. Gaze is off into the horizon over your front hand. So this is warrior two. I'm going to turn back sideways so you can see from the side again. Warrior two. Big breath in. We're going to lift up that front arm. And I'm going to keep this back hip dripping down and reach up and away for a moment. Now, you're going to be tempted to put your weight down into this arm and leg. Don't do it. Mostly because that would be a sideways pressure on this leg, right? But also because we want to think about using our core strength to support ourselves here and find your breath again in the crescent pose. It's more challenging than it looks, I think, yeah? I can feel this side hip working. I can feel my abdominal wall working. I can feel my front thigh working. One day it's going to get to a 90-degree angle, so if you don't feel anything in that front thigh, probably your knee cheated out to straight again, and you want to find your way back into that lunge. All right, big breath in, come back to warrior two, and now we're going to exhale, front elbow down to front knee, and take your back arm up above your head. And this is called side angle. I'm trying to press my bottom hip underneath to get that flat, square torso. Lovely. I'm going to close my body here. I'm going to change my back hip and back foot all the way back into high lunge and step together to roll it up. And then other leg's going to go back. Probably your left foot. Finding warrior three, which could be bus stop A, toe on the ground, bus stop B, body still straight, but toe is lifted. Bus stop C, starting to lean the torso forward. D is all the way flat back. Soften your front leg to step back to high lunge, and then rotate your hips out to come to warrior two. Run through your alignment. Front knee and front toe are pointing the same direction. Knee is over your ankle. Knee is bent. Maybe to 90 if you're all the way in the pose, but it's going to try and sneak up or fall in. So keep coming back to that knee and checking it. Hips are not sassy. Tailbone is down, long lower back, abs engaged, opening up. Arms are reaching. In your full extension of this pose one day, your palms will be above your feet. Finding your breath. Centering back to your breath. All right. Next breath in, we're going to scoot up the front leg. We're going to go to our crescent pose, making a big crescent move with the arms. Still engaged in the abdomen and hips. Still yielding to gravity with the hips, but pressing into the earth. This back leg is pointing knee and toe directly to the side. So it's a 90-degree angle from your front leg. Big breath in. Back to warrior two. And next exhale takes you to side angle. I'm trying to make one long line from my back foot, through my hip, through my shoulder, through my elbow, through my hand. Recheck your front leg. Your bottom hip is trying to tuck underneath to get fully in position. And we're going to swing that top arm down. Close your whole hip scenario. We're going to step back instead of front. Chaturanga. Vinyasa, lowering to the floor. Inhale up, exhale down, and come back to your child's pose and take a break. Go ahead and let your hips rock side to side here in your child's pose. So I'm going to let my hips rock to the right. Feel how that can stretch the outside of that hip. And rock over to the left. Take a breath there. Coming back to your center. Crawl your fingertips forward. Let your booty come up in the air. And drop your chest down to the mat, looking forward. So this does crunch your neck a little bit. Please be gentle. And see about just opening your chest and armpit for a couple breaths here. Heart opening pose. Big breath. If your neck says no, come up a little bit so you don't have to be looking straight forward. You can look down a little bit. So now the back of your hips are really opening, heart's opening. And we're going to take the weight of our hips back in space to lower back down. And we're going to now push with our hands into a child's pose. So your back stretch. For some of us, being in this position, either sitting on the heels or in child's pose, is a really big stretch along the front of the ankles and shins. Like if there's a lot of space between your ankles and the mat here, you might be feeling a big stretch here, and that's okay. Just take it easy. Eventually you'll get longer in those muscles and you'll be able to put your whole shin on the floor. But it does take time. All right, we're gonna roll on up. We're gonna come off of our heels for a moment. Yay! We're gonna come to a nice, familiar Baddha Konasana, or bound angle pose. So your soles of your feet are together. Farther out gives you more slack. Closer together can bunch you up a bit more. So find a spot where you can feel your sits bones, the bony part of your butt, on the actual floor. So you might walk your hips back to find that spot. We're going to go through a little motion here today. I'm going to have you inhale up to a nice straight back. And then I'm going to have you exhale and curve your whole back down and drop your head into those feet. So I'm going to turn to the side. So we're going to inhale up, we're going to exhale arch. We're going to inhale up and exhale curve. We'll do that a few times and then we'll stay, okay? Here we go. We're going to inhale nice, long back. I'm going to hold on to my shins. And then I'm going to exhale, pull my shoulders down and tuck my chin in, reaching through my sternum out and forward. Inhale up. Exhale, crown my head to my feet. Again, inhale, roll that back, up, shoulders back, exhale, open, arch your chest, and inhale, open, long back, and exhale, curve your middle back to the back of the room. One more time, up and over. Feel that long back, and then exhale and just stay bending forward with a rounded back. Notice as you're here whether both of your hip sockets feel the same or whether one is feeling tighter than the other. Some of us have different shaped hip bones and some of us have tighter and looser sides. It's all very normal. So learn something by just being open to noticing the difference without judgment. And roll up. We're going to bring those legs together. Find your upright position again. You might need to slide those feet out some more. We're going to open your right leg. So I'm up here, knees together, hips are square and straight. I'm going to open the right knee and slide the left leg forward. And with that upright pelvis, I'm going to fold forward, really thinking about your right hip coming forward because it's going to want to open towards that right leg. So square forward. Now, your left leg is getting a big stretch here. The knee may be trying to push down to the ground, and if you're feeling it in your knee at all behind the knee, we don't want that. So take your little hands full of marshmallows from the sky and slide them underneath your calf or knee to give your leg some support as you stretch your left leg. Big breath in, big breath out. And take a moment to notice where your knee and toe are pointing. Mine want to slightly fall out, but I want to stretch both sides of my hamstrings equally. So I'm going to make my knee and my toes point straight up on purpose by using my fists here to keep myself there. Now please also remember that it's been my job for over a decade to teach dance and yoga, so I am pretty dang flexible, and this might not look exactly the same on your body, and that doesn't mean you're not getting the benefits. What we want to feel here is the back of your thighs stretching. So as long as you're feeling the back of your thighs stretching, your leg is parallel and up, and you're doing great. It's not a competition. Find some breath into your own stretch. Inhale, lengthen that spine, and exhale, try and put your belly button a little bit closer. One more breath cycle where you lengthen. And this time when you exhale, I invite you to find every spot that you can to let go. Gently help yourself up. And we're going to switch legs. Go ahead and come on down with your left knee supported. If you're in this stretch deeply, your lower back might also be getting a stretch. That's totally normal. Even your upper back, if you're really curled forward. So if you want less back and more knee, or more back of the leg, then try bending that leg with your fists are under a little bit more so that you can lengthen your booty back and get a more flat back to tip forward. So it's like there's only so much length all along the back side of your body, so choosing how to bend your leg and where your hip position is, working in there will help you adjust whether your leg is stretching or your back is stretching. Hopefully that answers your question, Ashley. Okay, good. Yeah? Two more breaths here, friends. Come on up. All right. Now this next part is going to be a pigeon pose. It looks really different on your body depending on how flexible it is. So let's say this is your right leg. In the full expression of the pigeon pose, we get all the way straightened in one line, but that's not what most of us look like doing pigeon pose at first. We're gonna try and bring the right leg front. So if I face you, yeah, I'm trying to get my right leg front. It starts with the heel in, and this back thigh, when we're first learning to do the pigeon pose, is quite far out to the side, yeah? We do want to feel an opening in the back thigh hip here in this crease. So if your thigh is really far up, this won't be opening, but we're trying to open both the external rotation of the front leg and to send that back leg back and back and back and back. The other version of the pigeon pose when we're first starting is to have the hip up, the front hip up. Both are good. It's good to do both things because they focus on different parts of the hip. So let's come into our pigeon pose first with our hip down, and that means your legs are probably going to feel like they're really far to the side. We're going to take our hips and square them to the front and lean over the front leg. So if your legs are to the side, your right knee is forward underneath your heart and you're leaning forward, your hope is to start feeling the stretch in the outside of that right hip, yeah? So it might be that you feel that right here already because it's super tight, which it is on a lot of us. If you're not feeling that yet, you're gonna start separating those thighs. You might feel the back thigh hip flexors kick in, that's fine. If you're still not feeling the front hip, you're gonna wrap your back thigh closed. I'm gonna turn a little bit. Wrap that back thigh square. And then the next bust up is to scoot your heel forward. So if you were flat on the edge of a regular size mat, you might start out, it's my regular size mat edges, right? The edge of the screen. You might start out here. You start to wrap that hip closed. You start to bring this shin parallel with the top of your mat as you get closer to your C. You know, keep that knee opening and lean closed into it. So focusing on your front hip first. And find that breath again. We're going to come up and we're going to adjust to a different version. So we're going to take your front leg and bend it tight again if it wasn't already. And I'm going to roll on top of that shin and get both of my hips up in the air. Yeah? Both of my hips up in the air. So from the front, I'm going to pop up. So hips up version. Now in this hips up version, I'm going to think about sneaking my back leg back and opening the hip flexors, which are right here on your body, of the back leg. So from the side, it looks like this. Yeah, up in the air, thinking about tucking my buns underneath. And this is a great place to use your spiders or your fists. Yeah, and trying to open that back leg. So now I'm focusing on the hip flexors of the back leg. You're still maybe gonna feel it in the front thigh, but it's not the main focus. If you're not feeling that yet, continue to either sneak your knee back, but more importantly, lift your abdominal wall and tuck underneath. Before we do the other side, we're going to do cat-cow, so I can help to clarify what I mean by that feeling of tucking it underneath. It's like the anti-twerk. One day, these two places come together. But it might take years, so it's okay if you're in between in any of those spots we just passed through. Finding your breath. Option to bring your chest down. And walking it up. Bring that back thigh in. Whoop. And we're gonna switch sides. So now we're gonna put our left knee front, hip down. So you're sitting down on your left hip, and we're gonna focus on the front leg in our pigeon. Back leg is back, but it doesn't have to be that open yet. Front thigh is opening up. And we're exhaling into this big, intense stretch. Comfort yourself with your breath. Remember, in a deep stretch, your goal is to find your edge. So you want to find somewhere where it's uncomfortable but not painful. You want to find somewhere where you can get there and breathe into the discomfort, but not somewhere where you get there and it's so much that you have to come out of it. Yeah, that's past your edge. Your edge is where you can negotiate with the sensations without hurting yourself, without losing compassion. And that in and of itself, like maintaining compassion when things are challenging, is part of the practice. And the key is compassion here, right? We're not forcing it. We're making space. Rising up. We're going to tuck that heel tight. And we're going to come at the pigeon from the squared hips. So your hips are, or your left hip now is up off the ground. Our hips are squared. Oh, before we do that, let's bring our hands together and our knees together. So we're in on all fours for a second. And we're going to do cat-cow. I'm going to tuck my shirt out of the way so you can kind of see where my belly is. So for cat-cow, and you can switch to your wrists or your fists here, whatever works for you. We're going to first just let your belly out, let it drop. Let those intestines hang, and then we're going to softly lift them in. It's not the tightest thing you've ever done, just a little gentle lift. Shoulders back, little softly bent elbows, and we're going to go to cat like a Halloween cat, where I tuck my chin into my chest and I tuck my tailbone towards my chin. Lift my belly and spread my ribs and my lower back as curvy as I can. So big tuck. Inhale brings you to flat back, long from your elf ears through your tailbone. Figure out where real flat back is. It's a tricky thing to figure out. Most of us tend to drop our waist a little bit more. And then we are going to drop our waist. We're going to drop your ribs, spread your chest, tuck your chin up and back, and open your hips to the upside of the room. This one's called cow. Like maybe you have udders dangling down. I'm not exactly sure why they call it cow. Inhale flat. Exhale, push into the hands. Cat. And then go ahead and roll back and forth between the two. All right, we're going to come back to our pigeon, bringing that same leg forward. And now I want you to think about that cat pose. Lift your lower back up to tuck your tailbone as much as you can, and that will increase the stretch of the opening the back leg in your pigeon. Coming down onto your elbows if you can or want to. And if the floor feels really far away, you can prop your head up with your fists, or even a stack of two fists sometimes as a comfy pillow. See if you can breathe into that back leg hip opener. slowly back up. We're gonna roll onto our backs for a moment, and then move into Shavasana. So if you're in a really cold room and you want to put some socks on, or if you want to turn the lights down for a moment before we get into our last resting poses, now is a great time for that. So coming onto your backs. So anytime we are in Shavasana, which means corpse pose, if you're feeling that your legs extended in your corpse pose makes your lower back uncomfortable, you can always opt for this alternate. So this is a bent leg version of the corpse pose. My feet are a touch outside of the hips, so everybody come try this with me. And since my heels are wider than my hips, it's pretty easy for my thighs to fall in and together. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here from the top of my head. You can see my feet are wider than my hips, and that makes my thighs fall in. So the weight of my legs is leaning in against each other, and that takes the pull out of the back. Yeah, so this is an excellent alternative for corpse pose if your back is feeling a little delicate. You can always opt for that. We're gonna let our heads slowly nod, yes. Almost like you're tracing a little line with your nose and your chin on the ceiling. And you're gonna let that nod get smaller until it's just a little micro movement where you're finding the longest place in your neck to slow down into. And taking a breath there. We're going to let our knees fall to the left and fall a little bit to the right. Same gentle drift, just a few times. Slowing down into gravity. And let those knees come together. We're going to take our arms up. And we're going to reach across, pulling one arm, letting your shoulder come up. Inhale, center. Exhale, coming across. Inhale, center. Exhale, coming across. And let it get smaller. And then softly letting those hands float back down to the mat. Letting your hips rock just a little bit. Cat-cow feeling. Until you've found that location that feels like your body can just melt into the floor. Maybe that feels like easy today. Maybe it feels as though some parts of your body are willing to let go and other parts are feeling a little stubborn. That's okay. It's okay to be wherever you are, and however you are in your body is enough. But for the next couple of minutes, we're going to slow our breath back down. You can choose if you want to let your legs out or leave them bent. Your only job from here on out is to soften. Inhaling, letting your rib cage expand gently. And as you exhale, letting your belly drift down to earth and your ribs spread sideways on the mat. Inhaling, feeling that air brush through your nostrils. And exhaling, letting your eyebrows and cheeks and jaw spread out. Inhaling, feeling your throat and shoulders rise, like the swelling of a tide. And exhaling, letting your neck and arms sink back to the earth. Inhaling, feeling your body softly expand as it fills with oxygen, letting your palms unfurl and your thighs spread. And exhale, let the ground support you. Inhaling, letting your skull widen and lengthen away from your palms and your hips, letting your knees and your ankles and your feet reach softly away from yourself. And as you exhale, let them sink down into the ground as though you're nestling into the sand at a beach. And settle down into that weighted, still body. Gently coming back into your body. Letting your breath lengthen again. And choosing when you might want to open your eyes, but perhaps not yet. Perhaps you want to wiggle your fingers and toes. Start to bring one leg up so that it's bent and the heel is next to your hip, and then push with that leg onto your side and lay on your side for a little bit. Lengthen that top leg away to help yourself come up. Just seated and take another breath. Find yourself again. Thank you for class. Thanks for joining me. Next week, we're going to talk about a different movement principle, and we'll also have the option of integrating props, namely bricks. So if you have a yoga brick or you want to try one, I'm going to bring one out so you can see what it looks like. One is great, two is nice too. You can often find these for like $8. These are just foam bricks. They're about as wide as my hand and as long as my forearm, so to speak. It's called a yoga brick. If you don't have a yoga brick and you want to try, I know just squaring your hips is hard. You can fudge it at first with the inconvenient but possible options of a similarly sized box of soda. For things where we're like squeezing them and not using them for balance, you can sometimes use a Steele in its wrapper container of a paper towel. But it's optional. You do not need a brick, but if you're curious about what it might be like, we're going to talk about how to use them next week. So a sturdy box about this size will work, especially if when we were doing things like lunges, and it felt like it was sort of like the ground felt like it was a long way away, or you really wanted to put a leg down for balance to touch. A brick's job is to bring the ground up to you. So it can be a really awesome prop, whether you need it or not. It just kind of changes perspective. So if you want to try a brick next week, I'll talk about how to use them. But as with the bus stops, I'll also say, like, you could use your brick right now, or we can do it without doing it that way. So if you want to bring a brick next time, Monday, bricks. Note to self to remember. And that, my friends, is our practice for today, week 8.